call the meeting to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? All right, approve the minutes of Monday, December 16th. It was a regular meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, so moved. Board correspondence, communications. Anything anybody wants or has? All right, public comments. Any public? Public. Let us go. Jamie.
So I think we probably want to talk about the governor's proposal, which wasn't, because anyways, when we did this agenda, it wasn't there. So I think under 7.1, it's legislative updates. There can be a discussion had there. Is that all right? Under my report?
Yeah.
So you have my report in hand, which did discuss the proposal, and also give you a heads up that I'd be joining Representatives Holcomb and Maslin, which represent both Sharon and Stratford. Eric Lopez as the vice chair of Stratford, and Sarah Root, who had previously been the vice chair of this board, but is the chair of Stratford, and Will Davis, who's on the meeting tonight as well, the chair of Sharon, joined that conversation. And it's important because Representatives Holcomb and Maslin are both on House Ways and Means, which in regards to education funding and the yield bill, that's the committee that those things are going to come out of, right? So in regards to both the Secretary Saunders, presentation that she made for the governor's proposal last week, and then again, I was able to, with our chief academic officer, Adams, join other fellow superintendents and assistant superintendents at a VSA meeting where we were able to also receive opportunity to spend about 2 hours with Secretary Saunders and interim deputy secretary of education, and I'm blanking on her name, Jill Briggs Campbell, last Thursday, and also both House and Senate Ed. And so what I would say to the board in regards to the governor's proposal, and if you saw the address as well today, in the budget address, like it is clear that the administration is working diligently in regards to gaining public support in regards to the proposal that's been made. And, this is one of these things that from a policy perspective is incredibly important that we get it right. For our current students that are in our schools, because if we don't get it right in the near term, in regards to restructuring districts, they are going to suffer the most. And two, I look at that this will be one of the biggest policies that this state's taken up in a long time in regards to the ramifications it may have, that I would say not just on the education system, but really what I think when we look at the demographics of the state of Vermont. So, there's what I see here is this perfect storm around what we know is the future of the state in regards to a policy statement, but there's a lot of political momentum to do something big. And I believe that we are naive not to think that the political will isn't there to do something incredibly big. And I mean that from both the administrative piece of the state government, but also I would say at the legislative level of the state government. So there's an opportune time politically to want to make some significant changes in regards to addressing the sustainability around spending and taxes. And that has been coupled with this idea of needing to change the governance structure of education. So I think it's really important for us to help educate our local constituents in regards to what this this proposal means in regards to policy, because we need to cut through the political nature in regards to the messaging around the proposal. And what I mean by that is I think there's a lot of political will as a state that we need to do something to curb the increase in residential taxes in regards to ed spending, right? And that conversation has been had now for several years, and it built a great deal of momentum last year. And what that resulted in is a lot of capital in order to create mega policy change this current legislative session in regards to the biennium. So I hope what you're hearing me say is that I think it behooves us to have grassroots conversations as much as possible to educate our constituents on what exactly this policy proposal is. I know we don't have all the specifics, but I will tell you we have the ends. It behooves the administration to say how the specifics are going to get them to those ends. But I do not think it makes sense for us to be waiting to talk about those ends while we wait for the specifics. Because by then, I think it's going to be too late in regards to trying to change the ends. And by the ends, what I mean for all of you to be clear is that it's a significant change in how we do our governance structure in the state. So just to be clear to all board members, we are talking about, not just supervisory unions. We're also talking about districts within supervisory unions being condensed down to 5 districts. All right. So we're not just talking about supervisory union instructions going away and districts remain. We are talking about all of those districts no longer existing and, supervisory unions, and resulting in 5 districts for the state of Vermont. All right. Of which, and I have said this at other public meetings, the districts alone lack creativity in regards to the geographic nature of the state of Vermont, because it has been admitted publicly that they were drawn based on the superintendent's regional collaborative groups. Which, for example, what we consist of goes from here up to Craftsbury, Vermont. All right, so it's 47 towns that would become part of the Winooski School District, of which we lie. Okay, so that's how they created the geographical map. But that is one of the ends. And then the other piece to this, which I think is really important that we pay attention to, is that the foundation formula, they are saying, it was said today in the governor's address, you don't get to do the foundation formula as prescribed via a policy without changing your governance structure. And the reason for that is that the foundation formula, without changing the district structure, will immediately close small school districts. And so what they're saying is, at that end, is we are going to create savings, but we will create savings based on a larger district scale, right? But what they're not saying is that district then is going to need to be the one that makes those tough decisions in regards to closing and consolidating smaller schools. All right, so what they're saying to you is if we just do a policy to change the financing formula for the state, people really quickly are going to learn that means small schools have to close. They're not going to be able to run their schools and pass their budgets. So what they've done is they've couched it in, no, we're going to create larger districts, more opportunities for kids. Those larger districts are going to get a bigger pot of money, but those larger districts then are going to have to decide which schools close. And then we will move kids then. Either way, the only change in regards to this policy structure for the foundational formula and saving money is who are folks left essentially 5 years from now saying you upheaved our local schools. So that's where I'm saying, like, the ends aren't changing here. The difference is it's like the proverbial football, who's going to hold that at the end? And this has been a calculated political chessboard that has been in the makings now for multiple years. And they see it as a right time to take action on it. So, with all that said, not to be doom and gloom, when I said in my letter that it behooves us to work really hard to educate our legislature about this, we have to do that. Because what I just said, I don't actually believe that all of our representatives totally understand. So I would say to you, that's my update and my thoughts in regards to the governor's proposal. And what I would also say to you is that that I just think there's a lot of capital will to do something big, and we cannot wait for specifics to come out in order to react at a local grassroots level. Because by then I think it's going to be too late, possibly. Any questions?
Go ahead, Eric.
I have comments, not questions. The first comment is it behooves us to, so we have been in touch with our representatives, as Jamie has said. There are other representatives that are equally important for the other districts within this conversation. And the other individuals that have not been mentioned is the Senate, which is a smaller body and has as much weight as the House does. And there are a number of new senators, at least for our district, that need to be engaged. So they understand the magnitude of the work that they are doing. And I actually believe this is not a political issue from a party perspective. In other words, it's not something that it matters what party you are from. What matters is what the impact is going to be to the communities that you live in. So as a result of the sooner that we engage those individuals that we are not used to engaging with, because either they're new or they're just not part of our conversation, the better we will be in terms of getting to the right result, whatever that is. The second comment that I will make is that there's always going to be a natural tension between the notion of local control and centralization. And what this vision does from the governor is move the needle, I would say, all the way towards centralization. And that's something that our voters need to understand, because our voters are incredibly invested in their community schools. And what this vision does is it eliminates entirely the possibility of the local communities making a decision, because we're going to be creating these districts that are that here's where the real politicization occurs, where there is going to be elected members to that district in a manner that has not yet been determined. And it's going to be those individuals who are going to decide, not a local vote, what schools are going to close.
I mean, I sent an email off to my 2 representatives today, inviting them to our local school board meeting to share their thoughts and for us to share our thoughts with them. I haven't heard back yet, but I did send the email off, and I would advise everybody on our board to at least get that email out to your representative to have them come. Stacy?
I wonder if there is any advantage to drafting a message as a unified district and as a district that was largely kind of put together in the last go around, in addition to sending individual messages just about I don't know if we have any unifying points that we can make, or if we are stronger as a unified body.
I definitely think we should write something together.
Okay.
I thought of starting something and sending it out for us to work on together, and I don't even know where to start. So if anybody has ideas, maybe we just put a list on paper and we go from there.
Yeah, I did. And we chatted about this. I did the same, but there just aren't many details yet, so it's hard to respond when you don't know very much. But I think Jamie's point is quite valid. That you at this point kind of can't wait for the train to roll too far down the tracks.
Stacy?
So speaking of that letter, I know we don't have a lot of information yet, but I think we all recognize the fact that this is removing local control, which I know in Vermont, I think we all feel strongly about. So I would start, if I was writing to the governor and representatives, I would start something along the lines of, we're concerned about this. Please tell us how you are going to avoid the loss of local control. Because that's going to be, I think, for our people, I know as a parent and also as a board member, I don't want to lose our school, especially after everything we just went through, to reorganize and build a cohesive unit under White River Valley Supervisory Union. I think we've been doing pretty good. And I would like to upfront let them know that they need to explain how we're not going to lose local control before anything else.
Andrew?
I like the idea of having a statement or something along those lines as a SU. I think we do have a somewhat unique perspective in that, Jamie does a great job of being connected to our schools and actually getting into our schools and being seen in the community. I think if we were any larger, he wouldn't be able to do that. He's already going to, however many schools and making sure that he's touching in with each one. Thinking of trying to do that for like 1/5 of the state is impossible. So if we want to have our administrators be connected to schools and like have a personal connection with the community, then, like we kind of have an experience of being at kind of one end of what's feasible for that for an administrator. So
I agree.
Kathy?
Yeah.
On it too. I mean, I know they're not getting into the specifics, and to tell you the truth, I was away all last week, so I haven't really delved deep into what was going on. But the question I have is, okay, so they're going to consolidate schools. That's going to mean new buildings, because where are they going to find a high school that could serve however many, like if they cut each of these districts in half and had 2 high schools in each of these regions? There aren't any places that could hold that many kids, I don't think. Or the same with the elementary schools. If they force everybody to close down their elementary schools because they're consolidating, well, most of our elementary buildings are already maxed out. This is also pie in the sky that, what a great idea, make 5 regions, but physically, I don't see how they could possibly do it. And the fact that they're not telling us specifics tells me they don't have a plan. This is all mirrors.
Agree, Stacy, but I do think they have some sort of a plan, and I do think there are buildings that probably have more room than we think they have and could house more students. So I think they're probably looking at that and thinking of that. I mean, I certainly don't like this plan one bit.
Just the thought of the transportation. Craftsbury?
Yeah.
So to give you a sense, right, like Montpelier and U32 have already been having like very preliminary talks about combining.
Which that makes sense.
U32 could hold Montpelier, U32, Twinfield, and the 912 of Spalding. So there are some buildings across the state that are very.
And that makes total sense to me, because they're all geographically together.
And so, I think that is where you think about the right size of the plan. Like those are things I think we need to be asking questions about. Like, how did you come up with 5 districts?
Yeah.
Like that is what they're saying their end is right now. So you can challenge that thought immediately in the letter.
Right. Stacy.
Also, getting back to the fact that people are moving to Vermont for a return to local governance and kind of smaller schools and more, not traditional, that's the wrong word, but more personable education. I know quite a few people who have relocated to do that. I think that this is a great way to send more people out of our state.
Stacy? Peter?
Just a quick plug that tomorrow at 1 p.m. Secretary Saunders will be on Vermont Edition where they do their call-in hour. So if you have something to say immediately, it might be a good opportunity to call in while a lot of people are listening.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say, this is just came into my head. Maybe this is all a way to, put out this really horrible scenario to then maybe get that compromise of Montpelier and Barrett Spalding and U32 deciding, oh, I guess we better just go ahead and do this before they do that. I mean, maybe they're just pulling well, I won't even go into the politics, but to me, it's like, come out with something that's totally outrageous just so that you can force people to come up with a compromise.
But I do think it's important to also, if you're going to work on a letter, and if there's a board member or two that wants to volunteer to do that, I'm happy to help you. The governor said in his address today, and I just think you got to remember this, as districts that we operate what they would consider two smallest schools. Okay? He said in his address today, you can't do the funding formula without also changing the governance structures to right size our education system. That statement is being said because this algorithm works only if you can continue to, if you actually consolidate schools. And we consolidated governance, but other than Rochester High School and Granville Hancock and in Chelsea High School, we haven't consolidated necessarily school buildings, right? And so what I'm telling you is that we have to also say that the foundation formula, if this is where we go for education funding, has to be such that it actually provides equity for our kids. Doesn't just get to a level where it forces consolidation, because there's no other way to educate kids without doing such. For an example, requiring us to try to figure out a way to fit all First Branch kids into Chelsea School and shut down Tunbridge School. That just is as one example. I'm using that as an example because the board chair's right here, and I knew she wouldn't take it personally when I said that, right? But I'm just saying, another thing within this letter, there are some things that have been said. If you hear them, that they are signaling this does mean, right? The foundation formula is going to be such that it will result in forcing the closures of some schools.
Andrew.
Yeah, it does seem like that talking point is, clearly doesn't really hold water, since you can have the funding formula be whatever, or foundation formula, take whatever circumstances you want into account. Like the recent reweighting that they did in Act 127, it has more support for small schools built into the formula. So if they wanted to, they could do that. And yeah, so that seems like it's not a real reason for, needing larger districts. It's just a talking point.
Do I have a couple of volunteers that?
Well, no, Andrew, I'm going to challenge that. I mean, I think that they've already ran their algorithm on what they're going to let a student be, right? So it's not just the foundation formula. They've decided at least for their people, what they're
Right, but I mean, they're two separate conversations, is what I'm trying to say. It's like, if you set your formula to not provide any extra support for small schools, sure. But you can also set, if you're going to a foundation formula, they can change the foundation formula to support, small schools if you want. So they're kind of two separate things as far as governance versus,
So I think you should say in your letter, if you're going to a foundation formula, you got to make certain you do that.
right.
Stacy?
Just really quickly, and then I'll shut up about this for now. Although I'm happy to participate in a letter because clearly I have a lot to say about this. I think one way in which a letter from our SU could be powerful is that we have largely been pretty effective despite being cobbled together. What I have heard on the ground is, there's a lot of bickering that SUs are wasteful and that they disempower individual districts, and I think that there are a number of SUs that aren't doing it super well. Ours is, and I think that in addition to discussing the real perils that would befall all of our communities if we were to adopt this plan outright, we might benefit from pulling forward some good examples of how we've succeeded as part of an alternative model, for better or for worse. Like maybe some consolidation is needed. I don't know, but I think I don't know if it was Eric or Andrew who said this is the capacity that we can hold. I think that that's right, but I think that is right because we have a really good superintendent central office and board structure where we're able to be effective and work together to actually move things forward, while also being representing our towns. And I think that is not what I am hearing is that is not what we see other places in the state.
Eric?
I think we're talking about two letters or two bits of communication, and they're both equally important. I think we're talking about the notion of communicating with our legislators and asking them to answer the questions that we have. But I think that the other and very different piece of communication is to engage our communities in the discussion so that they are aware of what's going on and have a means of taking a position that is informed to the extent that they can be informed.
Right. I absolutely agree, Eric. I think that if we don't, it's interesting because usually when things come down, you see chatter on Facebook or wherever about, oh my God, this big change is happening or they're going to do this. And there really hasn't been a lot of that. Like, I feel like people don't, because it's so vague what he put out, it's so drastic, but it's also so vague, people aren't reacting to it. And I think as a board, it's our job to let our communities know what this really means, or as much as we know that it means.
Yeah, and the last or the next comment that I have is I feel like part of our communication to our constituents ought to include, and I don't know how to write this without becoming disruptive. The governor's plan is a way of saying we don't trust you, voter, to make the right choice. And again, that there's got to be a way of conveying that in an appropriate way. And what I just said is not it. But that has got to be a part of whatever messaging we give our constituents. And I want to be clear, there are parts of the governor's plan that I don't, or vision that I don't, I don't, are not horrible. And some of them may actually be good. I think that the way that we're going about it as a state is what gives me significant pause.
I agree. I was saying to Jamie when he came in, if you listen to it on his talk today on the surface, it sounds great. Like we're gonna save money, we're gonna do better for kids. But then when you realize what the end means, if you're listening, then it's not great. Not at all. Stacy?
I think we can utilize that because I know that we went through this, as you know, with the consolidation, and we were told there was going to be all these savings and everything. And I actually am not unhappy with the way things turned out, but there really hasn't been like the taxes haven't been like, you know? So utilizing that fact to our constituents and saying, hey, we went through this, we did what they said, and we still have higher taxes. Before they show us some real data, this shouldn't even be considered.
Agree. Who would like to volunteer to craft some letters? I will start something. I'll write down some names, and I will start a Google Doc. And Jamie, you said you'd help us out. If I get a few volunteers, more than me and Stacy, I need a couple more. Come on.
So what I will say, Kathy, is that I am. There's a reason why I have the job that I have, and that's because I do not have original thought. I am happy to edit anything that y'all put together.
So you're on the editing team with us. So Stacy, Eric, Kathy, anybody else willing to help? Bill? The other Stacy? You gonna help, Stacy? Peters?
Sure. Yeah. No, I thought you were talking about me. Yes.
Oh,
all Stacey's.
Okay. So if anybody else wants to, please email me and let me know that you'd like to be involved. We won't send anything out until we all have a chance to talk about it, but I'll send out a Google Doc with the people that I have here and we'll get that started. Sound good? Okay. Anybody have any other comments, questions? I think we could probably talk about this for hours more if we wanted to. Stacy?
Just real quick, can we put out, so I just posted, I looked up about the Vermont public meeting tomorrow. Maybe if we post on the community Facebook pages that, hey, the secretary is going to be talking about this tomorrow. Please email your questions or call this number, and let people know that, because I wouldn't have known unless Stacy hadn't said something. Might be a good idea because it's going to bring things to the front of their minds, and maybe they'll email or call.
Yeah, to get people to start tuning in and listening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to do that, Kathy, as in the boards, or somebody from each group, each board. But I mean, I know, I'm sure South Royalton and Sharon and everybody has the community pages that we can put this information out.
Okay.
In a non-official board way. Like, hey, tune in tomorrow.
Great access to your, do we now? Or
If you put it out on the school one, then I can share it, and then all of us will be able to share it to our town pages.
Yep.
It's what I did with your letter, Jamie. I shared it with the Tunbridge town page. So I mean, we can. So if you put it out in one spot, I can share it to my town, and everybody should be able to do it to theirs.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds like fun.
Ray will have it out before he goes home tonight. When snow flies.
Go, Ray. All right, guys. So to be continued. We'll get a letter going, but I do think we need to be active and not reactive because, but we still have work to do between now and then. We can't be all doom and gloom. We need to keep plugging along and support the people that we have. All right, I'm done.
My turn.
It's not as exciting now, is it?
I have to say it's a very hard act to follow, but maybe I'll say, I think, just to highlight what Stacy Peters said, I think we are doing really good work. And that's what I try to highlight in my report. There's a lot of good things that are going on across our 10 schools and all of our districts. So you all can read it there, but between right now we just wrapped up our winter benchmark testing. We've seen some really good growth there. You'll have a chance to look at that in February at your district board meetings and back here at the end of the month. A number of us got to sit in on senior capstone presentations. That's the first time they've been done, as the White River Valley School. I applaud those seniors for doing it with no model to base it on, and not a whole lot of advanced warning if you need a couple years to know it. So they did a great job, and all of our juniors sat in on them and got a good view of what was expected, and they're going to start working on them in the spring and be ready for it. So I think that's a great great move forward on capstones. We've got them also going on at the various grade levels, 5th and 6th and 8th grade. We've got winter wellness going on. I don't know if this is one of those things that's captured really well, I think, on social media. But we are just seeing, kids exploring and doing things that are great for their minds and great for their bodies in the winter. That I think our teachers and our parents and our caregivers are seeing kids in new lights. It's an amazing thing that takes a lot of time and a lot of volunteers to make happen. And I think our students benefit incredibly by having the opportunities to be out doing something different, especially during this time of year when it can get dark and cold really quickly. So just excited to be and continue to be part of this organization that does all this great work. So happy to take any questions.
Questions for Anda? Okay.
Yeah, it's not a question, it's a comment. I always learn a lot from all the reports from the senior staff, including yours, and I appreciate that. We learn a lot, and one thing I've learned is how much I don't know that's going on. And so having your reports that are succinct, accurate, and strategic helps every board member to be a better board member. And second, I like the way you link this report with the portrait of a learner. Right now, that's kind of a phrase. I'm not sure if we took a test right now of all the board members that we could list the 6 attributes of a portrait of a learner, what we're aiming for. And this one page, you've tied those 6 elements and given some meat on the bones of examples of how we're doing each one of those. And I think that's very valuable. And I think each one of you and the superintendent are trying to do that. And I think the board members really need to take a hold of that portrait of a learner and to keep having that in the back of our minds, whatever policy we decide on or way we're going to move forward. And your last one talking about we're going to need creativity and curiosity to take on these headwinds, whether it's the governor or the federal government, and come out landing on our feet and protecting our students. That's going to take a lot of work, and I happen to think we've got a team here that's going to give it all. Thank you.
Director of Special Services.
So Annette couldn't be here tonight, so I'm here to answer any questions, but just highlight in her report the child count number for students served in an IEP over year to year in comparison, which we're seeing is consistent. But what we're seeing the change is by school district. We're seeing a slow decline in students in need of a service through an IEP. And what we're also seeing is in the data is that we're looking at how students are classified as their disability, and we're seeing decline in students who are classified as emotionally disturbed. So we attribute our positive data to building a strong system, multi-tiered system of support, specifically our emphasis around social emotional in all of our schools and how we've developed teams to wrap around students and families. Our strong partnership with Clara Martin continues to grow each year, and they continue to create more programming for us to help support our kids in schools, and our partnerships with Gifford and South Royalton Health Center. So we're really seeing a positive trend of how students are responding to the system and not needing as much support around social emotional.
Nice. Any questions, guys? Thank you.
Yes. So you all have my report. It outlines what's happening in the month of February and the end of this month in the business office. As you all know, it's budget season. So right now, as of today, First Branch mailer has gone to the printers.
Wow.
Sharon's mailer has gone to the printers. Stratford's documentation has all gone to the town office and the individual who puts the Stratford annual report together. And red will be going out to the mailers later this evening or tomorrow morning, just waiting for final confirmation. That looks good. And then next round is putting all of those annual presentations together for the board and the administrators to work through, so we're ready to go for March. And then Rochester Stockbridge and Grenville Hancock go in May, so we'll be wrapping up their budgets over the next month or so. So that's my world.
Questions for Tara? Thank you, Tara. All right, and Ray.
Okay. As I scroll through my report here, Rodney, could you wave the newsletter there for me at the screen? Just want to highlight for everybody that the newsletter is out. We've had overwhelmingly positive feedback about it. And this is going to be a bit of a stretch, so give me a little leeway here as I ramble for a moment. I was on a state reporting webinar today where they were talking about what would have been called during Act 46 a weed. So they were talking about how you report personnel codes. And if you work in Hartford or Springfield, there's one code for that. But we were the example where we have 6 codes because we have people who work for the SU in each of our unified districts, RSUD, FBUD, and RUD, and then individually for Sharon and Stratford, or some combination of those. And so, again, tangentially related, on our website, there's a folder of articles of agreement. So my question, my statement is, will there be articles of agreement for the 5 new school districts? Having attended a lot of meetings over the last couple of years, I know that those documents got referenced from time to time when questions about governance came up. Thank you.
Good question.
And I would entertain any questions online or here in the room.
Again, I just have a comment. This was just super. And again, I had to put on my reading glasses to read it because the font was kind of small for me, but it's unbelievably illuminating. And this is from a board member. You can imagine the people there that are not tuned in to education or don't have kids that what's going on in their public schools. I mean, it just blows your mind. And if you're anywhere close to my age, you go back to, well, what did we do in the good old days? Well, we didn't do any of this. I mean, we educated our students, or I got educated, that sort of thing. But this is just a amazing, I think, effective outreach. It hits a home run with our communication strategy, including the picture of our esteemed superintendent.
He's a little younger than.
If you want to go over my version, I've got this underlined, every single article of new things I found. And the back page, tumble time. Did any of us know that there's tumble time in our schools and we're going after, we got to get the young kids when they're from K up or pre-K if we're going to increase our enrollment. Tumble time is one way we can do it. We don't qualify, so sorry, but we're not going to be tumbling around. So so I urge everybody not only to read it, to enjoy it, to get a kick out of it and just feel good about it, but also to encourage that we do more of these. I know you're shooting for 2. I think 2 is great. The other way is that we shouldn't go meet anybody on the street or anything without saying, oh, hi, and here. They walk in, the parent comes into the school here. They have a pile of them out in the lobby, but this is very, very valuable, and I just think it's a great start, and another way that we are communicating the news and influencing people. Thank you. Oh, and Ray, remind us again what E-rate is?
I don't remember from last year. It's a made-up word that doesn't actually stand for anything, but it is, you pay a fee, so to speak, right? The universal service fee on your phone bill.
Yep.
Right. $1 or a couple dollars a month that filters down to schools and libraries. So there are certain categories of services that we purchase that we get reimbursed for.
So it's a program to help fund internet for public education institutions. Is that correct? I mean, we're getting a reduced rate.
Yeah,
That's why this is important.
yes.
Okay.
Firewalls, switches, other network equipment, wireless access points. Yep.
I have to say, I like this too. I agree with that. But as far as tumble time goes, I tumble more often than I really like to.
Hurts more too.
Yes,
It
takes much longer to get back out.
Longer to feel better.
All right, guys, any questions, other questions or comments for Ray? All right, hearing none. Policy committee. Policy C5, C6, C7, and C8 are up for possible action.
You've adopted, all but one district has adopted C5, C6, C7. This would be the first action on C8, but no one's had any concerns with our pupil privacy rights policy, and they've had 2 readings. So that's why C8 is on here as well, timing wise.
Policy committee, do we want to talk about anything, bring anything forward before we move to the action part? We did have, Stacy, your community had a question or a recommendation on policy C5, correct?
Yeah, I don't even know that a recommendation was put forth yet, other than our board did vote down C5 based on there are 4 conditions listed by which an expulsion can be reconsidered. One of them concerns the intent of the student who brought a firearm into school, and it is the opinion of some members of our board that a board kind of adjudicating intent, and especially intent of a minor, gets us into very sticky legal territory. So our board did not advance that one. And we just got out of the policy committee meeting where we were discussing that to the exclusion of everything else an hour ago. So we haven't come to any conclusions on that yet, other than to say we're still working on it. Eric kindly volunteered to see if that language was bound by some federal language. So that would help that. It would help that problem in that it would tie us to federal language.
And it has been adopted by all of the towns except for Hancock Granville at this point. So if we adopted it as the full board, what that would result in is the policy committee can still review it and come back to you with a change on the policy because at this point we would need to make a change because it's adopted in some communities already anyway.
That's correct. So I wanted to let you know that has been what we have been discussing on this, although the policy committee has looked over this, and as Jamie mentioned, it has moved forward in all the other districts. Sorry about the background noise.
Eric.
And what I would recommend, so to be clear, we're in the process of revising policy. So this policy already exists.
Correct.
So what I would recommend, rather than going forward with the adoption of something that we may have to tweak, leave what's in place now, which is not very different. And as the committee figures out whether there needs to be any revisions, we can bring it back to the rest of the districts and the WVRSU and adopt the other however many we have considered. Whoops, I just left it.
So does that mean the districts that have already approved it, we have to bring them forward? They have to come forward. If there is a change, we have to redo them all anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so the SU guides policy, really, at the end of the day. So, and you have a policy on adoption of policy that says your policies will come out of the SU. So if you don't adopt this tonight, what Eric said is accurate. We would just continue to operate under the current policy that wasn't revised,
Okay, so then,
which has these 4 things in it, just so we're clear.
but if we do revise it, the towns that already approved have to
Are
go
gonna
back
need to
and
do it again.
do it again. Okay. Got it. So do we want to leave, do we want to leave C5 off for now? Is that what the recommendation is? And are people all good with that?
Stacy, I do have just one question. I do think it's important for the full board to know this. I mean, and I don't know how, Stacy, if you have a better sense of this or not. I mean, this was defeated in Granville Hancock by a 3-1 vote.
Yeah, I should disclaim,
Yeah.
we needed we only had 4 members of our board that night, so it was really voted down by 1 person. And like a vote is a vote, that's how it works, but
I'm just saying, I don't know if their board is, I don't have a good sense if that's the will of their full board or not. We did warn it again in Granville Hancock to see what their board thinks in general.
So basically we may just hold off until next month.
Yeah, unless the policy committee decides they have concerns and want to take it up.
I quite liked Eric's recommendation to see if there is legally binding federal language that would force our hand here, because I feel like we don't want to do it. Like, I don't even think it's worth considering and having more meetings if we if we are bound that way. So, Eric, I'm sorry to continue to pester you with that bit of homework, but I think that might be the best path forward.
Okay. So for tonight, we won't vote on C5. May come forward next month without any changes as it is, or we may discuss some changes. So
Question.
keep you posted.
Stacy, was the majority of your board in favor of this?
It was a 3-1 to pass it, but we only had a 4-member. We only had 4 members in attendance when we voted.
So it wasn't a majority? It was not a majority.
They need 4. Yes.
We would have had to be, you need a majority of your board to pass a policy.
To take any action.
To take any action. So we would have needed to be unanimous, and we had 1 holdout. I also apologize that this came up the night of our action. Like this, had it been raised during the course of our readings, we could have avoided blocking this now. So, but that's why you do all these readings, because sometimes you don't catch it until the very end.
I think it's what makes us strong as an organization in regards to our development of policy, is that we go through this process the way we do.
Yeah, I do think I take some comfort that we are covered by the previous policy, like that. It would be, I wouldn't be so keen to say, like, let's just leave it hanging if we had nothing to fall back on.
All right. So in that case, do I have a motion? So we're going to leave C5 off. Do I have a motion to move forward C6, C7, and C8?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so the C6, C7, and C8 have been motioned and moved. Any discussion on any of those policies? If none, I'm going to do a roll call vote to approve these. So in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Stacy Peters.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Justin.
Aye.
Amy. Stacy, I mean. No, Amy, and then Stacy.
Aye. Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Sylvia.
Aye.
Maggie.
Aye.
Will.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Rodney.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Nancy. All right. So everybody passed unanimously, guys. Thank you, and we will be back to you next month on C5. All right, and we are on to an executive session for personnel. For the superintendent evaluation discussion.
Do you want me to stay, or do you want to just go in as a board and discuss it?
Why don't I go in as a board and discuss it, and we'll come get you.
If you need me.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, Ray did email all of you the summary evaluation. And
Here it is in paper form.
And you would have had my goals as well, and the goals are in the packet as well as a public document.
Ray, do you want us to nag you when we come back?
Yeah, sorry, was there a motion?
Not
Yeah.
yet. Just want to make sure. I mean, I would move to enter executive session at 6:57 for the purposes of just personnel.
Have a second?
Second.
Hey, thank you, everyone. All right, guys, so we are coming out of executive session, no action taken. Question for you, do we need to accept your evaluation in public?
Yes, sorry, yes. So you should have taken action. Yes.
But
I
not,
apologize.
but we take it now, right?
Yes.
Just now that we're back in public session.
Yes.
So
So there should be a motion for that.
do I have a motion to accept the superintendent's evaluation?
I so move that we accept the superintendent's evaluation
Second.
as written.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Any nays? All right, hearing none. So moved. We did discuss a couple of things. Well, in executive session, we discussed helping your schedule. There were a couple of suggestions, maybe having other people be able to take some of your meetings so that you don't have to be out so many nights. I think everybody on here agreed that they would be comfortable with that to help ease some of your burden. We've talked about more wagon wheels in the future, so we're going to try to work with you to come up with erasing some of those meetings on the board for you. We talked about how crazy they were. So I don't know how we get there, but
We'll work on it.
we'll work on it. Maybe you and I can come up with a suggestion and bring it to the board or something.
That works.
Okay. And our next piece, Bill has acquired this picture for you, Jamie.
Oh, my
and we would like to present it
goodness.
to you on behalf of the board for our appreciation for all that you do for us.
Well, thank you very much. That's beautiful, Bill.
Oh, don't, it was inspired, I won't even go into detail, but, I think it's the board and all the district boards. I think it's representative of our appreciation of the whole organization that works, part of the team, as well as the parents and the students. I think it's important for you to understand how much we appreciate in the larger community, what you do for us. And in the back of the picture is, it says, to Jamie Canarney, White River Valley Supervisory Union Superintendent, an appreciation for your vision, your leadership, your compassion, and your commitment. And there's room there to be signed by representatives of the board when you get to the central office and you were willing to take it down off the wall. I think we all would like to put our John Hancock on it.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thanks. It's a pleasure.
Although you're going to get dinged on your next evaluation because I told them you cooked food for me at the breakfast and we didn't cook it for them. So
Yeah, where's the hash brown?
Listen, you organize, all you gotta do is organize a good community breakfast. I'm there.
So I'm just giving you a heads up.
I did brag about my cooking to a couple boards last week.
Sounded like there was an enormous amount of food, from what I heard.
Yeah, we had, you left by the time we tallied up the money. We served 1,150 people.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. We made $1,150. We served 150
Where'd you
people.
find
You served
150 people?
We served 150 people,
Yeah.
but that's in
So good.
4 hours, so it's pretty good.
Still a lot. That
Yeah,
is a lot.
that's a lot, and we were busy, and people really like to see Jamie there. They like,
It's fun.
so I usually get really good feedback, and I think when I tell them he's coming, I get more people to come.
Well, that's probably the part of your job you enjoy.
I do.
Yeah, those kind of meetings.
I do. Yeah, no, I do love it. And and just so the board knows, it was in my report, but I just want to highlight, because we started it today and it was really fulfilling. I'm going to be joining principals throughout the districts at senior meals over the next upcoming 5 weeks. And I started in Royalton today, and Principal LaFlamme and Thomas joined me with Mary Shell. In Royalton, it was great. It was a really good time. So we've got dates coming up in Chelsea, Stratford, and in Sharon.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
great. So it's good. And even in Royalton, like there were seniors from Bethel, Stockbridge, Royalton, Sharon, and Tunbridge. So we'll get many seniors from at each meal.
Great. Does everybody have a copy of the goals, the superintendent goals?
Yes.
Are there questions or suggestions or anything that you see before we move them to approve them? Or any discussion? Jamie, would you like to
I
discuss?
did have one amendment, and this is what happens when you don't have your chief academic officer look closely at it. There is a progress monitoring in regards to the meet or exceed WVRSU student achievement goals and targets. We'll achieve that by June. I just wanted to note that, meaning students will have taken it, and we're hopeful that we're going to have met those indicators. I won't have that data more likely than not until July or August. So I just wanted you to know, but still, the students would have accomplished that by June. So I think June's appropriate there.
Right.
I just wanted the board to know you won't get that report more likely than not until August/September, somewhere in there.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about, Jamie? Are you good?
What I would say is, in regards to this process, one, I mentioned this in my report, I have really valued the time change in doing the evaluation more on like the calendar year, frankly, for the upcoming, 2025 year, because one, I think it allows all of our board members to have a better sense of the work, meeting our new members who will be joining us soon in March. In the past, members were joining and we were asking them to evaluate like my goals and the work we're doing like a month after they've come on board.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have found it to like the information to be really valuable that at least all board members have been part of the organization for at least 6 months. And I just want to say to you that I do my best work when I can work for leadership, or in this example, a board that has high standards and puts a process in place in regards to accountability measures. That helps me drive to be my best self. And so I just want you to know that I thoroughly appreciate and value this process. And Kathy and I were able to present on that at the VSBA earlier this month. And actually, I haven't even shared this with Kathy. I actually know of several other colleagues now that are going to utilize the VSBA's process based on that presentation. So I think that that's good. In general, your work as a board, I do think that these practices are going to start to spread across the state. So just know I thoroughly appreciate it.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, I was going to ask for a motion to approve Jamie's goals.
Let me just make two things. One is 3 things: goals, meaningful goals have to meet. They got to be meaningful, important. We're not talking about a day-to-day. We're talking about the big picture. Secondly, they need to be measurable. And third, they need to be achievable. This is a very ambitious set of goals. These, when you look at them, they're important, they're measurable, and they're not automatic. So it's really darn important. And I just want to highlight goal number 5A, which is what we were talking about in executive session, about work with the boards to implement a board meeting calendar that attempts to limit board meetings to no more than an average of 2.5 nights per week, including any all committee and special board meetings. So it's embedded here. Kathy has got it as one of her top priorities, and I think that's going to happen, and it's documented there. I'd like to move that the goals be approved. If you're ready.
Do Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Right, hearing none. Rules are approved for the year.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Where are we on our agenda? Who we got going?
10.2. I thought it would be good for us just to talk about board vacancies, either upcoming or current, and just where we are. Just think this will also guide us in regards to our mentoring program. And so I did speak to Michaela. We have the committee that had been formed for the mentoring and board development work. After we go through this tonight, I did think it behooved us for her to try to pull that group together in the near future to just make sure we're ready to hit the ground running for March. Okay, so just I wanted to give that as a heads up. She has your names and she's been working with you both on the mentoring program, but also when we did the board development work. That same committee did that. So vacancies across the SU, we have a couple board members on tonight that actually are not planning to run unless their communities decide they're going to do a write-in campaign.
Not a bad idea.
But
I know, I like that idea.
there's, I think, at least 3
Can
on.
you tell us who so we can bully them into staying?
Yeah, we need to be
Yeah,
able to
so
bully.
do you want to start, Rodney?
With what? I'm not running for reelection.
Too bad.
You like hanging out with us?
No.
He's not even willing to say. You can't even scare him into here.
Oh, that's too bad.
I don't want to scare Rodney into running, but I will say that on more than one occasion, especially in the policy committee, his words have been incredibly helpful to me to refocus my thinking on what's important. So
I would agree.
I will miss you terribly in that committee and the board, writ large. And if there is anything that I can do to convince you not to do what you're doing, I'm happy to do it. And actually, I'll say the same thing about Maggie, except it's not about refocusing as much as her demeanor has always been incredibly helpful to me. Period. So the both of you, I will miss terribly, and if I can switch that, I would.
I will say, I heard Jamie say that he would offer you to make you hash browns every day for 2 weeks if you wanted to stay.
Yes, I'm the third one, and also not running for reelection. So
Oh, Andrew.
yeah, I know. I'm sorry, guys.
That's gonna be crazy for your guys' board.
Yeah, I mean, I
do think there's a strong person coming into my seat. Like he's been really good at our meetings, and all the interactions I've had with him are good. So I'm happy about that. We're not sure what's going on in the Bethel seat yet. So
good luck. I feel like as a larger town, you sometimes have some bigger, as a representative from some larger towns, you have some bigger tensions. So I don't envy that.
Well, Andrew, the thing I love about you on the board, you always give me perspective of seeing it as not as a choice town. Like, when you're from a choice town, you see that perspective, but I've been able to see and value the other side of being a receiving town, of having a high school and your kids not having that choice and what that means. So hopefully who fills your shoes will make sure they educate all the other people. There's a difference, and both options are wonderful. So, and it's good that we were able to look at it both ways. Who else is not coming back?
Yeah, so it's Andrew, Rodney, and Maggie. And we do believe in Stratford, we do have a candidate, correct, that did do consent form. So we do have someone on the ballot.
Yeah, so I will be running for the 3-year position because I need to have my head examined.
I know a good therapist, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. And there is an individual who I believe submitted her paperwork on Monday. So we ought to be full.
Great.
Well, I'm sorry that all the people that are leaving. I think you're wonderful board members, and I hope you stay in touch with us. And I think we're going to need your moral support over the next couple of years.
Maggie, we could all use that therapist number probably.
Yeah, probably. All right.
That would be her. She's
Yeah,
the
well-
therapist.
I'll put my Psychology Today link in the chat.
All right.
We're just on 11.3.
11.3 FY24 single audit.
So you already approved the financial statement audit earlier when we had that done. So this is the single audit, and just a refresher, the single audit is auditing our federal funds. It's a selection process based on high-risk grants. So all of our ESSER money was considered high-risk grants, and the HVAC grants were considered high risk. So those were the grants that were audited, and there were no findings in any of our single audits in the SU or any of our districts. So I just need you to please accept your FY24 single audit.
Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Sorry you had to stay
Are there
so
any
late
nays?
just for this.
No,
None,
it's not.
it's so
I'm
moved.
working on the project, so.
Okay.
Oh, we didn't decide on a meeting date before every. We decided, well, a lot of people got off. We should probably done that earlier.
Oh, they
We met- Yeah, Michael, a couple other, there's two other people, right?
We still have a quorum?
Yep,
Still.
we do, yep. So our meeting date is vacation week, correct?
Yes, right. It would be scheduled for Tuesday, the 25th of February. I know some of you are going to be out of town.
I will be.
I also know I have some central office folks that are planning to possibly be out of town as well. Not Tara and I, but.
What are you talking about? I'm headed to the island.
Well, the 17th is an option, which is a Monday that week prior.
And
Of
we would want
February?
to, and so for those of you that are policy committee, we'd be looking at doing that at 5 o'clock.
On the on the 17th or the 18th?
17th, the 18th already has two meetings.
Okay. The 17th is President's Day. Is the school open for President's Day?
Yeah.
Okay. I would prefer to have that meeting earlier rather than push it later, given how much is going on and how quickly things are moving.
Right, you mean instead of pushing out the
Instead of pushing it off into the first week of March.
Well, and the next week would be hard because
Because of town meeting.
Town meetings.
We got all our reorgs.
Yeah, all of our reorgs and everything will be happening, so. I mean, I don't have to work the 17th, but I still could come down for a meeting, so I can do the 17th. Is there anybody that on here that cannot do the 17th? Let's go there.
I can't do the 17th, but there's always somebody else on our board that's willing to sub in, so.
Right, 17th, okay with me.
I'm trying to work the 9th to the 13th. So you could do this the 17th, Stacy?
Yes, I should be able to do the 17th.
Okay.
So that gives us one. Why don't we just go down right through?
Yeah, I can't do the 17th, but I could join later. Just I wouldn't be there until like 6:45.
Just have them put their thumbs up if they can,
Can I get a thumbs up if you can do the 17th?
so I can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Stacy's 5. You're 6, 7, 8. We should be fine.
Okay. So we're gonna go for it on the 17th, and then you can join us when you can, Andrew,
At 6?
at 6.
Yep.
Well, let's policy committee.
Policy's 5. Yep.
Policy committee people, you're 5. Okay. What else do we have? Resignations, new hires, nothing. Future agenda items. So I don't think we have anything other than we're gonna start working on a better board meeting calendar and see if we can bring that to people to discuss. And we just set our next meeting date, and we need to, I'll start that Google Doc so we can start forming a couple of letters, one to the legislative body and one to our communities for outreach. So I'll get that going. I'll get that out to everybody tomorrow so we can start putting in, even if it's just putting in a list of ideas of what we should say, and then people can start building off of it. I think I need to forget that I don't need to write the letter. I just need to get some of my thoughts out there, and then we can put it together.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right. And other than
You
that,
have an academic data report too,
for
SU.
so it will also have an academic data report for the 17th. Right? I entertain everybody ready for their budgets. They're going to be coming up. We'll be ready to go by the 17th. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, guys. All
Seconded.
right, thanks, guys.